6 weeks into Russia's invasion of Ukraine, Vladimir Putin's armed forces have distinguished themselves not by their skill, but by their savagery. The dictator's soldiers have committed horrific war crimes against hundreds and more likely thousands of innocent civilians. But while he watches Ukrainians suffer, Putin is also planning his next moves. And it's here his weapons of choice are secrecy and surprise. Across Ukraine's western border, the people of Poland fear they're the next to be targeted. But as 9 News correspondent Mark Burrows reports, if the Russian leader thinks the Poles are unprepared for battle, he should think again. And a warning, there are some distressing images in this story.
If a new world war begins, this is most likely the front line. And the Polish military know it. Here on the border with Ukraine, war games have added urgency as the threat of a Russian invasion is dangerously close.
We are here to protect our people, we are here to protect Polish territory, we are here to protect the NATO territory.
It's a mock battle, but everyone here knows this could be their future reality.
And now we must show that we are ready, that for our society, for Polish people, they see that the army is strong.
Major General Yaroslaw Gromadzynski has granted us exclusive access with his soldiers training alongside their US allies in a joint operation.
Poland is taking its key role extremely seriously, ramping up training exercises like this one, and also just days after Russia invaded Ukraine, Poland announced it was going to take its defence budget up by $6 billion. Incredibly, the only other NATO country to spend more is the United States. And on top of all that, over the next 2 years, Poland will double the number of its troops.
It's clear this country is worried about being the next target in Putin's grand plan.
Yes, it is a terrible time for Poland, and for this reason we must show more that we are ready and that we are prepared to defend our territory.
As the closest NATO country to Ukraine, Poland now plays a critical role. It is here where donated NATO weapons, missiles and ammunition are gathered and then moved stealthily into Ukraine. Poland has become indispensable to the West, but some fear it also makes Poland a target. And if they are worried, we should all be worried, because if Russia spears just one missile into Poland, it could trigger a new world war.
It's the pivotal state in the NATO confrontation with Russia. So, I mean, obviously it's the United States first, but Poland is absolutely crucial. It's the most important frontline state.
Poland is putting itself on a war footing. Is that the way you see it?
Yeah, they have to. They don't have an option. You always hope for the best, but anticipate the worst.
As former Australian Deputy Ambassador to Moscow, Bobo Lowe spent more than a decade mixing with the top tier of the Russian government, including its president, Vladimir Putin. And with this insider's perspective, he understands why the Polish people are nervous.
Because it's been invaded multiple times over the last few centuries. So in fact, the Poles, more than any other European people, should be particularly worried about territorial integrity. I would be if I were them too. They have to be worried about the level of Russian aggression and the fact that Putin seems to know no limits.
Everywhere in the Polish capital of Warsaw, there are reminders of its war-torn past. Situated right in the middle of Europe has made it a target. It's been invaded more times than any other European country. The last time was Russia at the beginning of World War II, and Poland stayed under its control for the next 4 decades. History has taught this country to know almost instinctively when it's under threat. And right now, everyone is feeling the fear yet again.
Every family in Poland will have, some incredibly sad stories related to the war, no matter, where they lived and what happened. So I think we are collectively marked by a terrible experience in history.
And here we are. This is a beautiful area that we're in, is the old city. But it was flattened.
Correct.
By World War II.
Yes.
Marta Shulkin has grown up in a peaceful time in Warsaw. Just a young child when her country joined NATO, she's always felt very safe. But now, for the first time in her life, Marta's anxious about the future and worried about Russian troops on her doorstep, especially with enemy missiles landing just 10 kilometres away from her country's border.
Marta, what's the difference between your mindset as it was, say, 4 weeks ago and what it is now?
I think it's uncertainty. I think even under the best scenarios, we have crossed a point of no return into how life was before. Actually, I was talking on the phone yesterday with a friend and said, I don't know whether we'll have tomorrow, whether we're going to have sunshine or whether it will rain or whether rockets will rain down, whether rockets will fall on us.
Panic set in here days after the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Petrol pumps dried up, cash machines ran out of money. Marta had to drive 20 kilometres to find iodine tablets for her young family, a staple in the medical cabinet of anyone worried about getting radiation from nuclear fallout.
The realization that everyone is buying petrol, everyone is buying iodine was quite daunting.
Have you heard of people leaving Poland because they're so worried?
Some people are concerned about their own safety and decide to leave.
With footage emerging this week from the outskirts of Kyiv of a Russian military massacre leaving more than 400 locals dead, it's yet another chilling reminder for the Poles of how far Putin will go.
Given Poland's history, can you understand the concern and the feeling here in Poland at the moment and the worry?
Oh, 100%. And for them now to find themselves actually at the front line, the front edge of NATO against an aggressor who is proving that he wants to attack countries is something that you will be focusing the Polish politicians and the Polish military.
Everywhere you look in Warsaw, there are those reminders of what this country's gone through.
Well, it's the reminders not just in the history.
As a former defence planner and intelligence officer with the British Army, Philip Ingram is an expert on military strategy. He's alarmed at Putin's manic unpredictability and worries about his treacherous personality.
He's a psychopath, but he's not stupid. He is rational in his thinking.
You say he's a psychopath. Is he a bully?
Oh, yes. He's a dictator in the classic sense. If you look at what he is doing and the way Stalin operated and the way Hitler operated and the way Mussolini operated, he's exactly the same.
And, as you'll see, Philip has a chilling prediction for the world.
How dangerous is the situation?
Well, anyone who's got nuclear weapons and threatens to use them is dangerous.
It's Sunday morning and time for church in this small Polish rural town. But today, instead of the usual congregation, there's a haunting military procession of newly minted soldiers marching up the hill to Mass. They're normal townsfolk, mums and dads, teachers, nurses and factory workers. But since the Russian invasion of Ukraine, they feel it's now their duty to sign up to the Territorial Defence Brigade, the Polish version of the Army Reserves.
Normally at this swearing-in ceremony, there are around 10 to 30 new recruits, but today there are more than 120, and they're here because they are worried that the invasion of their neighbour Ukraine, just 2 hours' drive from here, could spill into Poland.
Yeah, this can be dangerous for my country, this situation. So we need, me and my friends, to protect this country from Russia.
21-year-old delivery driver David Chesky joined without hesitation. His rush to sign up is mirrored across the country, with the brigade recording an historic 7-fold increase in new members just in the last month.
It's just a worry at the back of your mind.
Yeah.
That Russia could invade.
Afraid, so it's normal. But I try to protect my country.
Inside the church, it's eerie and confronting to see the fresh recruits with their automatic rifles in such a sacred place. But it's not an unusual scene for the Polish. The priest is not only blessing the soldiers, but also their weapons to be used in defence of their country. For David, his decision to join the territorial defence fills his family with pride.
My brother is very brave. We have a situation in Europe, very dangerous, but he's very brave and he has a big heart.
Służyć wiernie Rzeczypospolitej Polskiej.
The threat is real. We've got a bully with, on paper, a very large conventional capability, which he hasn't committed fully yet, and a very large nuclear capability, which we hope he never commits. But Poland is on the front line.
When it comes to possible nuclear warfare, former British Colonel Philip Ingram believes Putin will be sneaky, dropping a small tactical nuclear bomb maybe near the Chernobyl site, but making it look like an accident and blaming Ukraine for it.
But with that nuclear device, he's then sending a message to the West and a message to the Ukrainian government that he's got 2 feet on the escalation ladder. And that is a very, very dangerous position to be in, because he could go up that ladder very quickly indeed.
Good boy, Lyosha.
Former Australian diplomat Bobo Lowe is slightly more optimistic, but he still thinks there's a chance Putin could press the nuclear button.
So while I would not rule it out, I think it's unlikely. If I had to put a number on it, I would say there's a 10% chance that he might deploy a tactical nuclear weapon in Ukraine.
How would it escalate to that stage?
You'd have to lose ground drastically on all fronts, I would argue.
So in other words, when he loses, there's more chance that he would go nuclear?
Yes, because it's a desperate step. It's a last throw of the dice in a way.
But even a small possibility of nuclear war is enough for some locals in Warsaw to consider leaving for good.
From the very first day, I feel we're not safe here in Europe anymore, because, even though we're in NATO, I don't feel safe. There are thoughts in my head, which world my baby is going to live in.
In the days leading up to the birth of their baby, young couple Victoria and Raphael Buchholz are filled with dread.
The worst feel is that nobody knows that what's going to happen tomorrow. Yeah, the future is unpredictable.
These US paratroopers, training with the Polish military on the border with Ukraine, are part of a 10,000-strong Allied force in Europe. But in a sign NATO is not taking any chances, since the invasion of Ukraine, another 40,000 have been deployed along the borders of countries that neighbour Russia. Bobo Low says NATO is clearly worried, not just about Poland, but the entire European continent. In Putin's quest to create a new empire, he's still playing to win, no matter the cost in lives and suffering.
There's no compromise solution here. There's no, what I'd call, a draw option. You either win or you lose. And Putin is damned if he's going to lose. I think that's the most striking thing about Putin, that there are no limits, provided you win. How many people you kill, how many civilians die, how much destruction you wreak, how many norms you break, none of that matters if you win.
Hello, I'm Tara Brown. Thanks for watching 60 Minutes Australia. Subscribe to our channel now for brand new stories and exclusive clips every week. And don't miss out on our extra minutes, segments and full episodes of 60 Minutes on 9now.com.au and the 9Now app.